morning. Thanks so much for joining us today to learn more about the 4 reasons to track completed work in your mobile time app. We want to be very conscientious of your time, but I just wanted to do a little housekeeping just to let you know everyone's phones will be placed in listen-only mode, but we really love getting questions, so please don't hesitate to go to the questions dialog box in GoToWebinar and send us any questions you have. We'll answer as many as possible. And without any further ado, I would like to introduce Mike Merrill, our Chief Operating Officer here at WorkMax.
Thank you very much, Shannon. Appreciate it. Yes, thank you very much, Shannon. Appreciate the introduction. All right, to get started here, today we're going to talk a little bit about tracking production within construction in your mobile time app. A little bit of my background: I grew up in construction and spent most of my time as a superintendent project manager until I started my own business. And back in 2003, myself and a good friend of mine in construction decided that we had some good ideas on how we could automate time and production collection out in the field. And so we started and created a system on Palm Pilots. Since then, we've come a long ways. And today we have a cloud application that runs on Android and Apple devices. So without any further ado, I'll get into the slide deck and the product and talk about what we're going to do to help you track your completed work. So within those reasons, of course, there's challenges of various kinds. One of them being what are the various units of measure that you are tracking within each of the cost codes and the production that your teams are out there working on. You know, is it square feet, lineal feet, square yards? Obviously, 1 square yard of concrete is very different than 1 square foot of concrete. So we want to be able to give you a tool that you can track those unique quantity types per cost code. The other thing is, of course, we've got paperwork, spreadsheets, clipboards, texts, emails, other various forms of communication that come in, photos, pictures, again, they're using different methods to communicate. We want to centralize those into one application that is able to run offline, but also has the visibility of a web connection or real-time visibility for office staff and management and people running payroll reports, estimates, etc. So we want to help improve that workflow. The other thing, and this was something that I ran into very frequently in my business, we had weekly meetings. I would have 15 or 20 people around a big conference table, and we would go through each of my various 25 to 30 projects, talk about where they're at, where they're headed, what's scheduled, what's planned, where we're behind, etc. And inevitably, when I would go out and do site visits after those weekly meetings, oftentimes those projects were, in my estimation, a week or two even behind where they had been reported to be in those meetings. So a lot of times the feedback and the data is out of date. It's something that somebody told someone else a couple of days ago and maybe told them where they expected to be. And then again, whether it's weather delays or other subcontractors, etc. In construction, there's just a number of reasons why things can be delayed. So we want to give visibility into what got completed, what was produced today and tomorrow and each day. And so that's another thing that this tool will help you address. We also have, of course, geographically dispersed employees that are spread throughout wherever your various projects are. We have customers that have projects in all 50 states and in Canada or internationally, and we want to deliver that visibility no matter where your employees and your staff are working. The other thing is, you know, when we're running off of memory, which is often the case in construction, we again tend to kind of forget or round off, or guesstimate is a term that is often used in construction, about what happened. Again, I sometimes can't remember what I had for lunch 2 or 3 days ago. How in the world could I remember how many square feet of drywall that I installed if I'm not recording it on a daily basis? So that solution, the culmination of our 17 years of working with mobile time and labor and production tracking in a software atmosphere for construction, we have landed on our web-based cloud solution and platform called WorkMax. So in WorkMax, we have obviously the ability to increase job cost accuracy because of that real-time collection. The other thing, we've got various employees or divisions or teams that may be overstaffed or understaffed. Maybe one project is short man hours and short people, and another project has more people than are needed. So again, optimizing these levels to keep the project on schedule is something that is very critical, because there's always a lot of dollars at stake on these projects. The other thing, and this was something that I, as we rolled the product out and got a few customers on it and started to get feedback, we would often hear that companies were identifying kind of MVP employees that were superstars quietly. Maybe they weren't the ones making the most noise or drawing extra attention to what they're doing, but they're more quietly producing more and being more efficient. And so this type of solution will help you to identify who those MVPs are, who those team players are that are absolutely being productive and ultimately making us more profitable. The other thing, of course, we want to keep projects on schedule based on what's completed, not just what has been reported. So these are other things that this visibility will help you to solve. So I want to talk a little bit about how WorkMax actually delivers this type of accurate productivity. So the structure and the way that we have it set up, again, we have the ability to personalize units of measurement per cost code. So that's the first thing. The second thing is when you're on a various project that has maybe drywall and tile, so to speak, we can control the cost codes and those unit production prompts to show up when appropriate and only when appropriate, as opposed to picking the wrong cost code on the wrong job or putting quantities in that don't apply. So the system is set up in a way that this will match that workflow that you need in the office in order to manage these projects. It is not field driven. This is an office defined workflow, and by simply logging in, these employees will be able to follow that process because of those prompts and those next screens that are presented to them when appropriate. So what happens is when an employee goes to clock out of, let's say, framing, for example, here, the quantity prompt for square feet will come up on the screen. So if they did 55 square feet, that's what they put in, and that is what is reported within that day or even immediately to the office. Also, we have the ability in WorkMax to pre-assign tasks by employee and also job site. So the concrete pumping and flat work will show up appropriately and be able to be selected by those employees or staff that need to select those codes. The other thing, and this is really central to everything that we do with WorkMax, we are able to have an integration with your accounting and payroll and job cost systems. And so the word integration can mean different things to different people. I do hear the term thrown around very loosely within the industry, and a simple export from accounting or payroll and import into a third-party system like WorkMax is not what we consider here an integration. An integration is something that has the capability to be more automated. It does not require manual manipulation between that process. Now, within the WorkMax platform, we have a connector or an accounting integration or a third-party system integration tool called ConnectMax. And ConnectMax is linked up with your accounting or payroll database, and on a timed basis can be enabled and run through a process to pull in any updates or anything new that's happened in your accounting or payroll system or estimating system. Again, as we go around this wheel, CRM is a possible integration, collaboration between other third-party systems like project management tools HR systems again. If you've got employee terminations or other things that affect what happens in the field, we want to have those things plugged in and connected so that that data is moving freely within the ecosystem of our solutions. How do we track employee performance? So the first thing is, again, whether it's an individual, like putting quantities in for his framing, or a crew leader, we have the ability to track those quantities for the whole crew. And the system will actually divide those up evenly by the employees that he has assigned the time to. Or if the foreman wants to track it all just under him, he has the ability to enter that just under his shift for the entire crew. So there's various ways that that can be attacked or approached based on the way that you're currently tracking or would like to track this type of information. The other thing is, of course, when you get data like this, you have the ability to, run contests or give bonuses or do things that will incent your staff to be more mindful of actually what production levels they're achieving, as opposed to simply, working as typical, taking a normal hour or hour 15 or 45-minute lunch or whatever that is. When you're tracking production, you're going to see those results very quickly for those that are taking appropriate lunches, that are showing up on time, and that are working a full 8-hour days or more. When an individual employee goes to clock out again, it can give them the prompt. So whether it's back on this slide, the foreman or the crew leader, or an individual, in either case, the system allows for unit entry to be entered by your field staff on their mobile device. So with that, I'm just going to do a quick run through with the mobile application. And in this case, I have an iPad. However, this works on iPad, iPhones, Androids, tablets. We have the ability through browser to use Windows or any other device that has an active browser. So I'm going to pin in for a basic employee. And Jerry here, as he sees the time clock, is going to click on that. And you see on the device, it remembers the last project that Jerry was working on. He's at the Utah Valley RMC Hospital expansion job. When Jerry clocks in, we've first of all present him with a list of the cost codes that are available on that job site. So if Jerry is working on drywall, we have mobile biometrics also. So you see my face in the top left corner of the iPad. It's going to capture that. Jerry has the ability not only to track production and clock in, but he can also put a note. If the office needs some kind of notification, he can click on this and put a note in, leave a voice to text, etc. So production, time, labor, biometrics. Also, when I clock in here, it's going to grab a GPS location stamp of where Jerry is at physically. And the system will do a comparison to that job site with Jerry's punch and his location where he clocked in. And you can set a geofence so that it will notify the office of those discrepancies when Jerry is not within the job area when that punch occurs. So there's a lot going on to confirm the data also. It's not just a better spreadsheet. This isn't just a better piece of paper, but we have data that has integrity because of accounting integration that is now being able to be tracked in real time and confirm that this is truly Jerry, and Jerry truly is at that hospital expansion project, and now he's clocked in and working on drywall. Now, if I have a crew leader or a foreman or somebody else that comes in and wants to log time for his crew, when I go to clock in, what you're going to see is, here I am on that same project. Now, if I wanted to select a different project, I have the ability, I can say the Salt Lake Airport Edition, and then I can click on other employees. Now, as a foreman or crew leader, I now have the ability to track and log time, and then I can also, after the fact, put in production of what was completed for this staff. So I have Miguel, Francisco, and Brandon also working with me. I'm a working foreman. We're at the Salt Lake Airport Edition, and we're going to go to work. You're going to see a very similar piece. Here's my biometrics that I have turned on. This also can be turned on or off per employee. So if this isn't something that you're worried about or that you want to have as a part of your workflow, that's fine. You can just turn it off. and it won't come up. There is no additional charge for this functionality. It's something that customers have felt like it was important enough that we have just included it with every system. So now here I am with me and my 4 guys, or my 3 additional guys, a 4-man crew doing tile grouting. I hit confirm. We get another GPS stamp of where the device is in relation to the job and the employees that I have. Now let's assume that we've gone throughout the day. You'll notice here, auto push sync completed. So what that is, as I mentioned before, this is a completely offline capable system. However, when we have a connection, in this case I'm on my iPad and I don't have a cellular chip in it. It is just using Wi-Fi. On a cell phone, of course, in most cases they would have a connection. But if I have a connection available, WorkMax is going to use that connection and send that data up to the cloud. Now immediately, within seconds, the office has full visibility into where their crews are at, what they're working on, the production units that they've completed as they enter those, and all of the other data that's related to that shift work that is out on various projects. All right, so now let's assume that I've gone through my day, maybe it's lunchtime or the end of the day. I'm going to pin back in for Jerry, and I go to time clock. I clock out, and you'll notice it was at the hospital and not the airport, even though it was the same device. It remembered my employee, and now it's saying the units for drywall. I did, let's see, 1,000 square feet. I hit set. I could leave a note at that point also. I could come in and say, need 40 more sheets of drywall. Again, this isn't a text that gets lost, an email that bounces or didn't get seen or went to spam. This is a note within the system that is being watched and monitored on a daily basis. So this will help your production also, because when information needs to be shared or something is lacking and they need assistance, you have the ability to communicate that through that. I hit confirm, GPS stamp, quantities have been entered, and now I'm off to work or to home or to lunch or whatever it is that I'm off the clock. Again, auto push, the office already knows that I'm gone and done, and I did 1,000 square feet of drywall, and I'm off to the races. So one other thing, some companies say, well, that's great, but we don't track time in real time. We prefer more of a digital after-the-fact entry method. So we have developed a tool that allows for that also, and that is called the timesheet. So if I come in here, pin in, you'll see that I also have the timesheet turned on for Mike Merrill. I'm the same foreman and crew leader, have the same access to the staff that I had before. You'll notice again, Salt Lake Airport, it didn't remember, again, the project that Jerry was on. This is specific to where I was last logged. And now you see I have the ability to choose the crew that I'm working with. Let's say it's Chad and Joe and Dallin. So the 4 of us are working together. We're going to hit next. And what you're going to see is some available fields that I can build out my timesheet with. There's the 4 of us at the bottom. One other quick thing that's a shortcut for companies that say, well, we're at the same project day after day. We do have the ability to go in and say, let's build out a timesheet that matches the last one that I did. And what that does is it matches the days, the hours, even the cost code that I had previously. Now I can pick something different. Maybe we're doing tile installation, not tile grouting in this case. And now, again, I can pick assets or equipment, I can do per diem, I can do other things tied to that shift that aren't related to production, but each of these things, again, are additional capabilities of the WorkMax system. I'm going to give my time card a name right here. We do require that there is something to distinguish it separately from the timesheet that I'm copying. I simply hit create. And now I have a very nice, neat time card for those guys. They can sign and click their name and approve that. So approvals can happen by foreman or by individual employee. The check mark is there that shows that approval was done. But back to the point of this webinar, I can put the square feet that the crew produced at that time. Let's say we did 450 square feet of tile. I simply hit save, and now that timesheet is saved. I can go back in at any point because I have this ability to review that timesheet. Again, here's the timesheet we just did. There's the approval still there. Now, maybe Dallin actually worked an extra hour because I've given authorization for this foreman to do this. He can indeed change those here and make an adjustment. Now Dallin can sign off on that now that it's corrected. And now you see his approval as well. So those quantities can be put in after the fact. I hit save timesheet and that's it. The time is completed. The units are produced. Now at the bottom left here, I have the ability and on demand, if I don't want to wait for the system to automatically do a sync or sync on startup, I can simply push this, sorry about that, check the time card, hit the sync button, and I am now submitting that time to the office. And so within seconds, they have complete visibility into the tile that was laid by the 4 guys at the hospital, and all of that data is now confirmed and completed. And so now I know what was produced for those, I guess it's 33 man hours between the 4 of them on that given day. All right, so the last thing, aside from the mobile app, we talked about getting that data to the office. Let me show very quickly this time card report. So this is the result of those efforts that we just completed. Here's the total hours per day. Here's the units. In this one, again, different projects, conduit installation, 304 lineal feet of conduit, 47 rough plugs and switches, 29 rough plugs and switches, 216 feet of conduit. So all of these things are being tracked. I have 39.92 hours on this time card for a total of 39 hours and 55 minutes for the week for that employee. And I don't know about any of you specifically, but in all my years in construction, I never once had a time card turned in that had 39.92 hours or 39 hours and 55 minutes as the total. That would have surely been 40 at least, and often 45 with 5 hours of overtime. But because we're doing it in real time, we're sharing that visibility, we're documenting as things occur, we're going to get accuracy that is absolutely new and different than what you're going to experience in a paper-based system. There's a phrase that I've heard often. They say people do what you inspect, not what you expect. So because there's awareness that this system is confirming data and affirming what's happening or not happening, that accountability will go up for individuals and you will see different results. The other thing, so that report's nice, helpful, can be emailed, saved off, archived, etc. However, that doesn't get this data into my accounting or payroll system. So we also, within ConnectMax, we have the ability to export the completed data that was collected and feed that back into the accounting system through the import functions that those have. Some systems have an API where the data can flow in automatically depending on the system that you're utilizing. But in either case, we do have the ability to export and move all of this data out of WorkMax through ConnectMax and feed it back into the system that you need it to go into. So if we look very quickly, fabrication, he did 23 units for an 11-hour and 22-minute shift, kind of a long one there. But as you go through, you'll see some that are 0, and that's because in the WorkMax database, we have the ability to say, on setup, I'm not tracking quantities. And so it'll just come up as a 0 here and won't feed anything in. Chair rail installation, 242. Again, in the system, it will show lineal feet, I'm sorry. Flat work would be square feet in most cases. Epoxy coating, same thing, square feet. So whatever the various, steam beam rigging, steel beam rigging, 145 lineal feet, etc. So whatever metric is important to those units, whatever cost codes require units, those are all accessible through this system. So if I scroll down, I mean, I have a lot of records here, 545. Any that have units, you see those populated. So with that, I will turn the time back over to Shannon and see if there are any questions from the attendees and if there's anything else I can dig into before the top of the half hour.
Okay, so in the meantime, we are getting questions coming in, but feel free to submit any questions in the question dialog box in GoToWebinar. Mike, our first question is, what do you mean by mobile biometrics? Is it facial recognition? Mike, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
Yes. So it is true facial biometrics. It's not just a photo that's taken. What happens is, and so I'll click on this record, Mike Merrill. I can come into the system and look at the recognition tab. And here I am during this demo, and here is the source image for my demo database. I have the same barber as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, but that's about it. I'm only an 11.8% match with Dwayne, so that failed. So this is a true, we have patent pending facial biometrics that the system will alert you when there is an infraction.
Okay.
All right, next question.
Our next question is, can a superintendent make an adjustment to the production quantities? We saw the hours adjusted, but can they make a change to the production?
They sure can. So again, going back in, if I come back into review, like timesheets, for example, I come back in on this timesheet. I have the ability to go in and on review and make an adjustment in the screen, just like I did in the hours. I can make an adjustment to those. Maybe it was 480 units. Or the other area that can happen is in the control center or the cloud login area. So just like we see on, let me just pick one time record here. So for Miguel, if I come into edit, I have the ability to put the units in here. So it can either be done in the cloud login through an admin or somebody that has management capability over that field labor, or out on the mobile device where that was collected. So now I've got 420 units to that particular cost code. Okay. Next question.
Mike. Next question. We have hundreds of cost codes. Is there any way to limit the cost codes that a field employee can select?
Great question. There absolutely is. So within the system, what we have is we have on permissions. So down here you can see we have varying permissions that can control what access levels people have to jobs or cost codes, and then even functionality within each of those. And more than that, something that we've done this last year, we've added what we call automated permissions profiles. And so within those profiles, if I go to new construction, just as an example, as it pulls up, it's going to show what jobs are available, what, again, here's the various cost codes or permission sets that I have within each of those. That's per employee. So what employees does this new construction profile have access to? I could deselect some. So if Miguel or Corey or Jose go to log in, they would have access to that new construction profile. Everybody else here would not. They would only have access to the profiles that they were given. So same with jobs. It goes all the way through, as you can see here. If on the cost code level, so this was more particularly what the question was, again, you can see travel, tile grouting, certain permissions on new construction. If I want to add all of those and make all the cost codes available to this team, I simply hit save, and now it makes that available in the mobile app. Now, a common one is service. Maybe the service team again, would have a different permission set than somebody that's on new construction. So yeah, so complete configurability based on your workflow. Any other questions?
Oh, actually, we've hit our 30-minute mark, so if we didn't get to your questions, we had a few more come in, we'll go ahead and respond to the group, and we'll include the response in our follow-up email. We'll also be sending you a recording so that you're able to share the information on why you should be tracking completed work in your mobile time app in the next day or so. We'll send that out. But thank you so much for your time, and thank you, Mike, and everyone have a wonderful day. Thank you.